done your stretches and also a sip of water. I think this is the best to stay awake for the whole duration this morning. Take it from me, and also for those of you who wish to slim down, water is the best, no sugar. So that will keep you awake. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for our panelists and moderator to come in, I should just read out a little bit about the mission that we have on behalf of HRD Corp. HRD Corp has been at the forefront of Malaysia's human capital development efforts for the last 3 decades. One of the key reasons for HRD Corp's success is its ability to not just understand, but stay ahead of the latest trends and developments pertaining to employers, workforce, and the broader industry. This has enabled the organization to evolve and transform in order to meet the needs of its stakeholders and the wider Malaysian public. Today's industry panel discussion is a testament to this fact as we bring together industry and subject matter experts to discuss key trends that affect the future of work and what all parties must do in order to reset and redefine. So, ladies and gentlemen, we shall wait for a few minutes more for our speakers to come back to the hall. And for your information, you may scan the QR code on the screen later for your questions, if you have any, and you may scan that throughout the whole duration of this discussion, and your questions will be selected and will be read out at the last end of the session. And please do scan your QR code later on the Slido, on the screen later, will be shown to you. Yeah, that's the one. So you may actually do that throughout the whole duration of the discussion today. Please bear with us for a few minutes. We shall start in any minute now. Once again, I would like you to give yourselves a big round of applause for being here today. It's really nice to see an amazing turnout today in the hall. It's very, very compact, and this shows that this is a very good thing, and we love this energy, so please keep it up. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, allow me to share with you some background on the topic that we will be discussing today, the first session this morning, which is reset. One of the most obvious consequences of the current COVID-19 pandemic is the infusion of data-enabled services into ever more aspects of life. We expect digital transformation to be an even bigger imperative for organizations as they strive to accelerate their post-pandemic economic recovery efforts. This leads us to a very important question. How will employees adapt to this transformation? And what roles can businesses and industry leaders play in driving the 2030 workforce? So these are some of the questions that will be explored, discussed, and answered in today's session titled The 2030 Workforce Balancing 3 Symbiotic Elements: Work, Workforce, and Workplace. And if you have any questions to our panelists, once again, you may submit them via Slido by scanning the displayed QR code on screen. You may scan the QR code and submit the questions throughout the discussion, and selected questions will be read out at the end of the session by the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I would like to invite the moderator for today's session, Mr. Arul Kumar Singgaravalu, co-founder of Malaysia HR Forum. Please welcome him on stage. Our panelists, Madam Salina Kamarudin, Vice President Human Resources of UMP Holdings Sundar Berhad. Please give them a big round of applause again as I call out their names. Thank you very much. Let's welcome Tuan Saiful Zaini, Chief Executive Pengurusan Air Pahang Berhad. And last but not least, Datuk Shahrul Nizam, Chief Executive of Tanah Makmur Berhad. Without further ado, I would like to pass this microphone to Mr. Arul Kumar. Are you ready, Mr. Arul Kumar? Is your mic working? All right.
It is.
All yours.
Yep, thank you. So, good morning, everybody. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Okay, maybe what I do is, looks like some of you all may be a little bit tired after the first session this morning. So why not, let's all stand up. Let's, say hi to the guys at your left, at your right. We do it here as well. Then, then we have a seat, okay? So please say hi to the person on your left and on your right. Find out their name. Where do they come from? Then we have a seat, okay? So let's do it now. Everyone, stand up. Say hi to your neighbor on your left and to your right. So, Aru, hi, morning. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so make sure you know who the person is on your right and on your left. Okay, thank you. Have a seat. Okay, so we have just done a very quick icebreaker. Now, so thank you for joining us today. And so we will take roughly about between 1 hour, 45 minutes to about 2 hours. We may finish a little bit earlier, but all depends whether you have, how hungry are you in asking us questions at the end of this session. So today I've got 3 distinguished panelists, and let me just quickly run through who they are. So on my left is Puan Salina. So let me just read a short biographic information about her. So Puan Salina Kamarudin, she is the Vice President, Human Resources of UMP Holdings, Sdn Bhd. So UMP, I guess, is University of Malaysia, Pahang, right? Yep. Okay, so the business section of the university. So Puan Salina has got about 20 years experience in various HR operations and strategy. And she has been in manufacturing, project management, construction, hospitality, have worked in companies such as Sony, Polyplastics, UGL, heavy industries, as well as in hotel industries such as Swiss Garden, Resort, Kuantan. So that's Puan Salina. And then next to Puan Salina is Tuan Saiful Zaini. And Tuan Saiful Zaini is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Pengurusan Air Pahang Berhad. So if you don't have water at home, you know who to reach out to. Or if your water, it's, tastes bad, he's the person to look out to. So Encik Saiful is currently the CEO of Pengurusan Air Pahang Berhad. And so he was also formerly also a distinguished person, I would say, from the conversation we had during breakfast earlier on today. So he was with Shell, much earlier on. I think he has been in Malaysia, in Middle East, in London. And finally, he has ended up in Kuantan, ensuring that you have got clean, safe, and 24/7 water supply all the time. And last but not least, so last but not least is Datuk Shahrul Nizam. And Datuk Shahrul is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Tanah Makmur Berhad. And so we knew that Datuk Shahrul and Tuan Saiful were colleagues in a couple of companies, I think, before. And so Datuk Shahrul joined Tanah Makmur as a group CEO in quite recently, 2017. And he's also a distinguished person. He sits in a couple of organizations currently. He was also the appointed chairman of Pahang Medical Center and Healthcare Group. So he has also been UMW in Shell, Vestigo Petroleum, which I remember is one of Petronas subsidiary or something like that. Yeah. So that is very much Datuk Shahrul. And so myself, I think some of you all may already know me. My name is Arul, and I come from the Malaysia HR Forum. So prior to this, I was with Infineon, and of course, Harta Lega, that was my most last employment. So right now, I'm a free bird. Okay, so today's topic that we're going to discuss is balancing 3 symbiotic elements. So we know that in any setup, there's always work, there's always workers, and the setting is a workplace. So today we're going to discuss these 3 elements. And interestingly, why HRD Corp call it reset? Because of the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. The way of operating business is no longer like those days. Even though there are some elements still the same, but today we are looking at a total whole new context. And coupled with that, the government also recently introduced employment exchanges. They've brought in new elements such as flexible work arrangement, etc., which we also cover as part of the presentation today. So what is going to happen today is, so each of the panelists, they have prepared something to share, and so I've reminded them, don't make it too academic, otherwise participants will fall asleep. So it's good to keep it as practical as possible, some real-life examples. So some of the slides, it's well prepared, so do pay attention. And what you'll need to do is, if you have any questions to ask, you have the QR code that was shared earlier on. Ask questions, anything related to the topic. Anything that is out of topic, then we may not be able to answer. But if you want to know why sometimes there's water disruption, then later you swamp Tuan Saiful and don't let him go home. Okay, so in case you have any questions, please raise it via Slido. So you saw the QR code just now, and we will address these questions either at the end of the session or whenever we have an opportunity to do so. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pass on to the first presenter today, which is Puan Salina. So Puan Salina will speak on, so Puan Salina's topic today, Puan Salina, let me see where is that, yep. So Puan Salina will speak on work, Encik Saiful will speak on workers, and finally Dato' Sharul will speak on workplace. So how the format of today's discussion is going to be as such. So each presenter have prepared a couple of slides to share with you. So they'll run through their slides first to set the stage for our discussion later on. Once the presentation is over, then we will have a couple of questions to the panelists prepared by me, and lastly will be questions that is prepared by you. So that's the flow from now till about 12 o'clock or 12 noon or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass over to Puan Salina to share her slides, and no rostrum, so you can do it from here if you want to. Or if you want to also stand and deliver, I think I'll leave it to you as well. Okay, if you want to just walk about the stage. So pass over to Puan Salina. So please welcome Puan Salina to share the first topic on work.
Thank you, Arul. So I used to stand. Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to everybody, colleagues, friends, my dear panelists, member, moderator, Arul. First of all, I would like to thank HRD Corp for inviting me. Such an honor because I've been in HR for more than 20 years, just an ordinary HR practitioner. There's some sort of like sentimental feeling or value between HRD Corp, used to we call HRDC, because when I joined HR, my forte is more on talent development. So always communicate with HRDC, or now we call it HRD Corp. Yeah. So from my age, 20s, 30s, 40s, plus, still together we work together. Yeah. Just to show you, and I would like to congratulate HRD Corp because the transformation that we would like to share today. Yeah. They have shown a very good transformation. From just on HRDI fund to more and more activities on development, yeah, to make sure, to ensure that the talent will develop from time to time, right? Okay, ada yang kata saya kalau bagi training kadang-kadang saya suka cakap orang Perak because I'm orang Perak. Kahwin dengan orang Pahang. Okay. So I don't want my session to be so serious. I would like you to, to enjoy the session. Yeah. Okay. We'll start it with the meaning of reset. Yeah. What do you mean by reset? Yeah? Reset meaning that you want to transform something from one situation to the other for improvement. For this situation, what we are talking about is to improve the talent and organization in parallel with the technology or anything that expansion according to the market requirement. Yeah. So everybody knows about COVID-19. Most of us has been affected and infected by COVID, yeah. But the three elements that we would like to share, today on the three elements, yeah, the remote work, e-commerce, and automation, yeah, still continue to be with us, yeah. So I will discuss more on automation and flexible working arrangement, or what we call as FWA, as I think this is the hot topic now, yeah. My topic will be more on work, yeah. Before we proceed with the slide, I always like to share with the audience, yeah, with the participants, on special codes, which relates to the topic that we'd like to discuss today. In a world that is changing fast, companies need to have great flexibility, good digital capabilities, and the right people that can deal with the new challenges. So these are these are all the important points, because without one of these, we could not succeed, yeah? The other one shared by CEO of Siemens: the quality of its workforce is the key to a company's success. Companies need more people who don't see problems, but to offer solutions. So we will have all sorts of challenges, you know, obstacles. But if we have a workforce who always see problems as opportunities, that is what we want to develop today for the future talent, right? Then the biggest challenges to company cultures are a fear of change. You have the technology, you know, you have FWA, that is flexible working arrangement. Then certain companies, certain employees will feel that this is some sort as a fear, because they are fear to change of the normal situation that they used to face, yeah? So you need to fail from time to time to be able to succeed. Let me share with you my experience. Name it from an ordinary person who worked in hospitality industry. Then I joined to work as a HR because of my interest in human resource and talent. I did not know about HR, so I was called by HR manager. At that time, that was in 1990s. Yeah, he challenged me because I was given the title of HR officer without having any certificate in HR. So he just put the book on HR, on Employment Act, and he said, "You read to me the Employment Act." So what happened? I said, "It's okay. One day I'm going to put my masters in front of you." So it happened. All right. What I'm sharing with you is that sometimes we don't have the ability. We feel so fear to change, you know. But when we have no choice, the pushing factor, then only we realize we are so strong, because when the only choice for us is to be strong. So that is one of the things that I would like the talent here, yeah, everybody, to share with your team, is that don't feel fear if you have somebody that feels, no, you cannot do the job. No, this is a digital translation. You don't have the certificate, you don't have the degree, you don't have the related degree. Take the challenge. Don't just wait for company to send you for training. In this new world, you have to have at least 2 skills. It's better to have 3 skills at the moment. That's why we call multi-skills. Yeah. Okay, the first point, the first element is on digital transformation. Okay, like I mentioned, it's not only digital transformation, because it involves value, people, optimization, and capability to rapidly adapt. We must rapidly adapt, yeah? I will show you the example of few companies. Okay, maybe if some of you, you are familiar with this. Okay, yang atas tu ya. Phone BlackBerry, siapa sempat? Maybe ni orang muda ya. So that was in 2011, I think, almost everybody, at that time I was working with a company, Australian company named UG Air Resources. Most of the employees there, they pakai this BlackBerry. So they have special codes untuk special group, yeah. So only they can communicate within each other, among each other. So what happened? This company, this product, yeah, dah tak ada dah. Why? Because with the new at that time smartphone, I think starting with Samsung, so they lost in the battle of technology. Same goes before that Nokia. So remember that phone yang orang cakap baling dekat orang pun boleh bengkak kepala kan? I used to have that. Now, no longer, yeah, Nokia. Then you have this Motorola, yeah. In 1990s, I used to go to do recruitment to find telephone operator. Sabah, Sarawak, masuk dalam hutan. So inilah phone yang I biasa bawa. So at that time, bawa phone ni is like, wow, so grand. I have this telephone atur macam satu bag kan. So now no longer in market, yeah. So that's what I would like to share is that things change, yeah. Things change. We have to move concurrent, in parallel with the changes. If not, we will be redundant. It's either the company or the person. That means employees will become redundant, yeah. Okay, after this, I'm going to show to you just a very short video on the technology that we have in the company that I'm attached to now, that is UMP Holdings, Sdn Bhd, on the BIM, yeah? And also, this is about construction and design, whereby they use this modeling technology, yeah? So for those in construction, Datuk Shonizam, maybe you're interested, yeah, because we don't have to wait for this building to be completed. By using this modeling, we know if there's any issues to the structure and whatnot, yeah. Okay. Before that, I would like to just briefly explain on what are the effect, yeah, on automation towards certain departments or certain positions. Okay, I give an example of HR. They used to call personnel department, okay, long time ago. Then they named it human resource department, then now changed to human capital, and more companies change it to people and culture. So why do these companies call the human resource department people and culture? Because HR actually now has been transformed into such a center to develop people, to look at their talent, and also not only to develop the talent, also to become the center of culture. Meaning it is to expose, yeah, to expose the employees so that the workplace will become some sort like your second home, yeah. So as you all know, we have a lot of we have several mental issues, and then you have this. These are all related to work, yeah, stress, you know. So that's why HR has been transformed into people and culture, rather than to only stress on the disciplinary issues, yeah. So this relate to the technology that we would like to that we are going to discuss. You know why? Because people ask me, if we have such technology, if we have automation, so what happened to HR? What happened to HR personnel? Or we have such automation to positions like procurement, finance. So what are these people going to do? Giving example of HR, one position like payroll executive, yeah, doing payroll, repetitive job. If you ask me, or according to World Economic Forum, most of the jobs that will be automated are those jobs which repetitive, doing repetitive tasks. So at the end of the day, about 50% estimated, yeah, by 2025, 50% of the tasks will be automated. That means we will have 50% manpower, 50% that will be robotic or automation tasks. Yeah. So we will discuss what will happen to this 50% of employees. What should we do in order for us to sustain? What should we do so that we wouldn't become redundant? Yeah. Can I have the video, please?
Amalah kita menuju ke arah digitalisasi. Jom kita terbang lebih tinggi.
Thank you. Okay. Remember that I mentioned that 50% of workers will become redundant by 2025. Maybe not in Malaysia, maybe the other parts of the world, but it's coming. So how are we going to prepare for that? Yeah. This is according to a source from McKinsey & Company on automation and adaptability, how Malaysia can navigate the future of work in was done in 2020. So if you see that there are 3 tasks, that means like you have the payroll officers, transaction processing, then you have collect data, legal support, workers, mortgage originators. Then the next one, predictable physical production workers, where always do every day the same task. Yeah. So from the study said that 71 to 72% of the jobs they are doing the repetitive jobs. So meaning that 50% of this job, 50% of this job, 50% of the total jobs could be automated, right? Okay, this is the study by WEF or World Economic Forum, a future of jobs reported 2020. You have as many as 43% with the companies plan to reduce their workforce. By 2025, the work hours performed by machines should be the same by humans, meaning you only have, like mentioned just now, 50% humans, 50% machines. Yeah. So expected changes to the workforce is that some companies will just use contractors, some will expand the workers, some will reduce the workers. So this is the impact towards the workforce organization. Yeah. Okay, this is also shared by WEF 2020 report. So the bad news is that 85 million jobs shall be displaced. What are the jobs? Don't be sensitive. This is not from me. This is from WEF. Yeah, maybe it will not be so drastic because 2025 is just another 3 years. Maybe it will be later in Malaysia. But just to share with you so that we will be prepared. Yeah? Data entry clerks, administrative, executive secretaries, payroll, okay, accountants and auditors. You have client information and customer service, general operations managers, material recording, stock keeping clerks. So all these jobs, mostly they have, maybe not 100% of the job be automated, maybe 50%, like procurement, they have like sourcing, things like that. Then you have like finance, not when we say it will be automated, not 100%. So what will happen is that what we suggest for the person, for instance, payroll exec, rather than just doing payroll, because it will be automated, this person should be trained as compensation and benefit specialist, or companies call it Com and Ben. Yeah? All right, so the good news is that 97 million new jobs will be introduced, but these are all skill, you know. So what happened is that my advice to you is that if you have children, you know, if you have sisters, brothers still studying, so these are the subjects or areas or skills that they need to look into. For instance, data analysts, AI machine learning specialists, digital marketing, you have software applications developers, and you have digital transformation specialists. All right? So what do we need to prepare? What do we need to prepare in order to stay relevant for future job markets? Trust me, as I mentioned, all of us must have at least 2 skills. If happen, minta jauh lah, minta simpang ya. What happened during the COVID-19, you know, during PKP, yeah. So just to share with you, I always use Grab when I go to KL, you know. Why I like to use Grab? Because I like to, being HR, I like to talk to people. So I always interview them and I ask, sebelum ni buat apa? Surprisingly, nearly 80% that I interviewed, they came from positions that previously they worked, they have been retrenched, you know, contract ends, and they are not like blue collars workers. They are managers, they are executives, you know, and they earn a very good earning before the pandemic. So, yeah, they drive Grab, and they have other skills as well. They're learning on the one that I mentioned just now, on system, on software. They take on their own initiative because they have studied on the recent development that we need to study on these areas, especially for the younger generation. Yeah. Okay, this is what I mentioned just now. 50% workers to be redeployed. 94% expect employees to pick up new skills. 50% of all employees will require reskilling. Yeah? Okay, for those who doesn't have the skills that I mentioned just now, the good news is that there are skills. Yeah? There are skills that could not be automated. If you have analytical skill, you have active learning, you have complex problem solving. So you analyze what are the skills that you have now that you can use that it cannot be automated. Yeah? Critical thinking analysis, leadership, yeah? And of course the rest are all technology related. This is the skills I would like to share with those who involved in talent development because as I mentioned, my forte is more on talent development. For those who are doing talent development, yeah, I'm sure you are doing this competency gap analysis. Right now, you guys are doing on competency gap based on the current performance. You compare it, current skills, compare it with the required skills for the job. Moving forward, what you need to do is to compare the current skills of the person versus the current skills, the requirement of the market, and the current requirement of your customer. Let's say your customer required the process of your company to be automated. So what type of skills required in order for the job to be done? So these are to be incorporated in your talent development program. Yeah? Okay, next we go to the topic FWA, or flexible working arrangement. Maybe I just would like to ask you guys, just raise up your hand. Are you aware of the FWA? Do you know the meaning of FWA? Just raise up your hand if you know. You don't know? My team, you know what is FWA? Okay, FWA stands for flexible working arrangement, yeah? So the popularity of flexible work arrangement due since COVID, yeah, since COVID-19, where we work from home, we work remotely. So work remotely is one of the aspects of FWA. Yeah. So in 2020, study by Talent Corp and United Nations Development stated that 60% of respondents reported that their productivity increased due to working from home, flexible work arrangement. Yeah. Over 60% say they has improved their quality of life because they do the job, they have their family, you know. Then 83% employees say that they are considering this FWA as a permanent arrangement. Okay, this is new. I'm sure most of you are aware about this, especially HR. Malaysia Employment Amendment Bill 2021, one of the key amendments, other than, we have several amendments to the Employment Act 1955. Employees who would like to work on flexible basis, employers must be aware about this, shall be able to apply for flexible working arrangement of FWA with their respective employers under the amendment. That this will come into force September 2022. But don't be excited because still under the clause, the first clause, still mentioned that the coverage of Employment Act is, under the first schedule, the coverage of Employment Act is still under those who is covered under Employment Act, not for all. Yeah. Okay, the FWA application must be made in writing. So what is the FWA? Meaning flexible working hours, you can work from home, working days, and also place of work. So when the application is made, employer must give an answer within 60 days whether to accept or not the application. If it is to be rejected, employer must give justification. Yeah? Okay, just to share with you, few companies that has implemented successfully FWA. Rather than maternity leave, flexible paternity leave, which really interests me is the enhanced employee well-being and work-life balance. That's why I mentioned, remember, the HR department where you have, they name it people and culture. Managers are empowered to offer flexibility in working arrangements. That means respective managers, they will be empowered. They will arrange their manpower, yeah? Then they also conduct webinars touching on various mental health. Like I said, several mental health issues has been reported. Then career reboot program. This is very interesting. For those employees who really perform well, if they have issues on the health of the family member, they are allowed to go for leave for a certain period, then come back without having their seniority be reduced. Yeah, this is a very good point, a very good program by them. Okay, I would like to share, because certain of you representing the company, CEOs, of course your concern will be, how do I proceed with the FWA? What is the impact to my manpower? MBF President Datuk Syed Hussein recent comment highlights, it's a very good highlight. He said that FWAs can only be implemented after discussion, after agreement, okay? Then organizations have different ways of making their FWA work depending on the nature of business. And different businesses have their own unique structures because not all businesses have the same nature of business, the same the way of working. Yeah? And lastly, let us look on the challenges implementing the FWA. How do you track employees' attendance and productivity? How do you set timeline for employees to respond to work? Because they are at home, yeah? Then how do you make sure that the confidential data they bring home, for instance, are kept confidential? Then how do you manage the trust between managers and employees? And ensuring that FWA policies is for all employees. It's not only for certain employees. You never see them at office. It happened, Certain employees, group employees, they always come to the office. So how do you make sure that as employer that these are done fairly? And how do industries such as hospitality adapt to this or respond to this requirement of FWA? It should be discussed between employees and between employers and between the ministry. Yeah? okay, the conclusion. Some people or some companies said that we don't want automation, okay? But instead, we need to focus on actually making sure our employees have the right skills actually to thrive in the automation area, to adapt fast, yeah? Then flexible working arrangement, whether you like it or not, it will soon become permanent option for many employees. However, deeper discussion, as I mentioned, need to be done. And on the other hand, government must proactively provide more support to SMEs. Because baru SMEs nak hidup kan, so tiba-tiba nak kena ada flexible working arrangement. So further discussion and agreement need to be done. So by that, I conclude my session today. Maybe you have any question you can ask later through with other panels as well. So thank you so much. This is my lovely kids at home would like to share with you. That's why the beauty of having flexible working arrangement, you can be together with family, including your kids. Because working and your life at home, it could not be separated actually. You must be happy both. Yeah. With that said, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Yep. Thank you, Puan Salina. So let me just recap some of the very important, very pertinent points that Puan Salina raised, plus a bit of my inputs as well. So I think what we have heard Puan Salina's presentation just now, she touched very much, I think at a very initial stage, she spoke on how do we embrace challenges and how do we turn it into opportunity. So, converting challenges or taking the challenge and, converting into opportunity is where it makes either an individual successful or an organization successful. So, thanks for sharing Nokia as an example. I mean, those days, I remember Nokia, that big phone, I think you throw it at, at something, the guy will probably collapse. The phone, used to be like a water bottle size those days. Heavy, big, bulky. So the thing is, what we see when was it Apple? Apple came about, Samsung came about, Nokia, BlackBerry, they were probably taking a rest, right? So whenever a challenge arises, we must explore how do we convert this challenge, take this challenge and convert into opportunities. So the issue here, or the question here is, what and how do we go about this? And I think Puan Salina also spoke about rising up to the occasion. So when you face challenges, when you face uncertainty, how do we rise up to the occasion? So COVID was actually a good test case for all of us. When COVID came, we all remember, if you remember, we go back to March 18, 2020. So we thought, okay lah, 2 weeks only lah, 2 minggu saja. But we never realized that 2 weeks, the first shutdown, 2 weeks, ended up to 2 years, right? So sometimes we just don't know what is going to happen next. And can any one of you all tell us, is it going to rain at 2 o'clock today? We do not know, right? Yeah, Kuantan maybe. Can you tell us, would you have water in your house today evening? The one Tuan Saiful, no lah. Okay, and I think what Puan Salina also mentioned is, change is inevitable. We cannot avoid change. Either we change or we got to be ready to be changed. And so Puan Salina also spoke on the importance to upskill and to reskill. It's two different things, upskill and to reskill. And she also mentioned the need to have 2 skills. So later I want to ask Puan, why only 2 skills? Why not at least 2? Okay, at least 2 skills. And what is also important is, how do we prepare for change? Right? We know that change will come, change has come, and changes will continue to come in different forms, different shapes. So how do we prepare for change? Right? I remember those days, remote meetings, it only happens in big companies. In large MNCs, PLCs, we talk about remote meeting, remote work and so on. Today, even small SMEs are doing remote work, right? Maybe not always, but at least now that has become a norm. Those days when we, for those of you all who are in sales line, you will tend to run to customers' place every now and then, to perform your sales, your initial lead generation. today what we said, hey, let's get on to a Zoom call first, right? So these are the changes that have taken place. And I think one of the advice to SMEs, I'm just trying to read between the lines of what Puan has shared just now, is never be afraid to upskill your employees, right? So sometimes we tend to have this fear, if we upskill our employees will run away. That is why we've got hundreds of millions of ringgit in levy funds unutilized. The fear of trained employees, upskilled employees, they run away. But having a workforce that is not trained, that is not upskilled, is actually much more dangerous than training them up, right? And so Puan also spoke about closing the gap between what is needed and what we have today in our organization. So I think this is very much what Puan has designed. Oh yeah, one more thing Puan also did mention about the design of work. So we can't rely on the yesterday's design. So today's design would need to cater for today's needs. Yesterday's design is for yesterday. So it's like us, what we say, don't use yesterday's solution for today's needs, right? Things are changing. So you spoke on automation, digitalization, digitization, flexi work arrangement, and so on and so forth. So thanks a lot. Please give a clap to Puan Salina. So next, I would like to invite Tuan Saiful. So Tuan Saiful will speak on workers, right? Over to you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, Mr. Arul, can I make a deal with all the audience? You can ask me any question, anything other than water. Okay, I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, as I said, that thank you very much for HRD for inviting me, and I'm very honored to be beside Puan Salina and Datuk Nizam, Datuk Sharul Nizam. I call it Datuk Nizam. I feel so honored to be here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and selamat semua. Okay, berkenaan, I wanted to say a lot of things pertaining to, I just prepared one slide actually. Yeah, but HRD make it 4 slides. Yeah, because I do not have a lot of time because of maybe pipe pecah sana sini, whatnot. So I just want to share with you a bit about my journey and draw from the experience and how we can deal and try to understand both party between you and us, me, and then the audience. I come from a very humble beginning in Kuala Lumpur. Anyone from Kuala Lumpur? Anyone from Kuala Lumpur? Kalau Puan Salina can speak in Perak, saya boleh cakap Pahang. Yeah? So I come from humble beginning in Perak as a worker, yeah, pertaining to the human capital, myself. Yeah? Dapat pergi ke Malay College Kuala Kangsar at the age of 13. I left Pahang since then. I came back only last 3 years, coming to 3 years now, in Pipe. Betul, Khairul? 3 years, coming to 3 years. Yeah, sometime pergi ke, at that time, my first day I was in Pahang, in Kuantan. I got lost in Kuantan. Can you imagine get lost in Kuantan? Because I detached myself to Pahang. Along the journey, I believe that when I was then after Malay College, I got, Alhamdulillah, pergi ke Lancaster University. I am not like Puan Salina, HR background. I'm more on a finance and accounting background. I got a chance to go to work with an established company called Shell, Alhamdulillah. Within Shell, I got a chance to go to Shell UK, Shell Europe Oil Products, Shell Singapore. And after some time, I believe it's time for me to contribute back to Pahang. Yeah, I wanted to come back to Pahang a long time ago. Really want to come back to Pahang. Really want to serve orang kampung saya. Yeah, orang kampung Kolpes, Pahang, Pekan, and everything. And I got what I bargained for, more I guess, more than I can absorb. Yeah, at the moment I'm the CEO of the pengurusan air Pahang Berhad, Pipe. I will give you perspective a bit in terms of coming from a private sector into another private sector, but it's actually more rooted from pejabat awam lah, if you like. You see? So that kind of things I want to give, I want to draw experience on that. The difference are very vast between those two. Whether we like it or not, there's still a gap that we need to actually adhere to, and the gap for us to actually to get the gap closer and closer. When I first come in, my first slide was actually about communication. Yeah, if I can be balancing three symbiotic elements, workers and workplace, I believe workers is the most important things. I'm not saying that work is not important, Puan Serena, yeah? Okay. And then Datuk Nizam, workplace, but workers, because you're inside, you yourself, each one of us, that make a difference. But then again, workers without work, it's not a work. It's mengular, orang Pahang cakap. Yeah? So it is some symbiotics. Simply, when I put together my material, it's not possible for me to divorce one element to another element, because it's of the same equations, and it need to have equilibrium in order for you to be happy with your work and your employer, yeah, be happy with you. Yeah, it need to be in equilibrium. And how to achieve the equilibrium is some things that I think quite difficult, Mr. Aru, to achieve. And I think now it's more flexible going forward, inshallah. Okay, the first things I want to say, the first point I want to say is communications. Communications within those works and the workers, you need to be there very hugely. Because if I were to be, maybe my first slides, oh sorry, I had to manage myself, right? So, sorry about this. So which one I had to click down, up, this one, okay. Okay, can I stand up a bit? But the first one is communication with the employees. I believe when I was in Shell, every month, we have a town hall. Me and Datuk Nizam used to be together in Shell. We enjoy ourselves. Datuk Nizam is Sepangga Bay, a lot of good seafood out there. Yeah? So we have every month. But when I was in Pipe, it's not possible for me to do that. It's two things. One, the worker will understand hala tuju, the directions of a company. The worker need to have a lot of buy-in in making sure that we address the issue day to day going forward. The communication is very important. Last 2 weeks, I had the luxury or the privilege to go into 10 years anniversary of BASF. Anyone from BASF, Gebeng? I was very impressed to see the top of CEOs of BASF came down to Pahang, came down to Genting and attended BASF open house. And then they have a very open discussion with the employee. And then I believe that kind of communication is important, not only for the employer, but also the employee. Yeah, we should not take any and we should not actually, no such thing as silly question. Every question is very important, and this actually need address. I think this is something I would like to achieve. This is something I would like to achieve in Pipe. It's not possible yet to achieve there. We had our 10 years also, like yesterday. 10 years of Pipe, 2012, 2022. Thank you very much, appreciate that. But the thing is, I still have a long way to go within Pipe itself. The second thing I would like to bring, the capital human CAR. Again, Datuk Syarul, thank you. Sorry, again, another acronym, another jargon that I brought in from Shell, which is actually C, which is capacity, A is achievement, R is relationship. If you guys, I know Pipe has put out a lot of job advertisement. In Shell, in Pipe, I see these three things, three elements. Capacity. Capacity, or people refer, is headroom. In order for me to see a good employee, a good staff, I look at the capacity to solve problems, the capacity to see the world, the capacity to see the ideas. Second, without capacity alone, it's not going to put anywhere. It needs to have achievement. Achievement is another thing, but capacity is the biggest one. The third one is relationship. Somebody asked me why I want to come to Pahang to work in the I believe the most challenging industry is actually utilities. It's a service providers. In Pahang especially, if you see my WhatsApp, I got a call or I got a message from very top, Datuk Sri MB kita sendiri, Datuk Sri SS, all the way down orang Kolipis, semua hantar mesej kat saya. So it's very challenging. Why I want to come from a multinational into a challenging business. I believe it's one thing. I believe relationship. I believe because I need to enhance my capacity for me to deal with people, stakeholder management. Because currently, Mr. Arul, there's no one organization in Pahang that is more close to MB and Datuk CSS, because water is very key in terms for us to upgrade ourselves. Yeah, I see Arul smiling at me. Yeah, but I guess that is the case. So see capacity for you to think, capacity for you to achieve, because capacity itself, if you don't achieve anything, you are nobody. The third one, very important, is relationship. How you deal with people, 360 degrees. How I deal with Arul, how I deal with Puan Serena, how I deal with Datuk Nizam, very important to me to give who I am and who you are as well. Okay, that's CAR. A few other slides. Sorry. Because I used to be in my company, so I just give orders. So now I have to do myself. So again, going back, macam mana dah tak lupa dah. Okay, fine. Reward and recognition. I have the luxury to work with my iconic leaders, Datuk Sri Idris Jala. In Shell, we move job very, very fast. So in 16 years I was in Shell, I worked almost like 11 functions, 11 places, and one of which is with Datuk Sri Idris Jala. Datuk Idris Jala believe in one thing, quick reward. Again, that's something I cannot do in pipe. Not yet, I guess. Puan Khairul is actually my GM in pipe. I still cannot do this. But in Shell, we have done that. Yeah, very important in my point. When we turn around SMDS, Shell Media Distillate, which is based in Bintulu, we turn around the company within 9 months, from a very red to a very good blue, within 9 months. Quick turnaround. You rewards. You will get rewards. We have one incident where SMDS, they're selling distillates, middle distillates. So I don't know how to. Lilin tu semua gunakan distillates. So we got to know our own spy. We have spy, yes. Yeah, we got to know one of our competitors is going to be plug shutdown in China. Yeah, and then within that shutdown, we need to push our to the markets. So in order for us to do the distillate, middle distillate, we need what they call catalyst. This catalyst, even though I'm a finance, I know a little bit about business. This catalyst, it's actually from Amsterdam, and we need to get it transported from Amsterdam to Bintulu within a short time. If we were to go a normal way, which is actually to ship, yeah, sea freight, it's going to take us about like few months. But we cannot do that. Time is very important. What we did was, Idris Jala at that time, Datuk Sri Idris Jala now, they're having meetings, all of us, everybody, they engage everybody. Give me solution. He said, give me solution. What solution? How to get rid of this? And then that's one, not very high level, I think mid-rank, came and said, Datuk Sri at that time, we addressed first name basis, Idris, why we actually, they suggest to use transported by sea freight, 747. A lot of people at that time in the room was laughing at this guy. Yeah, again, inclusivity. Again, my question is inclusive. We need to understand. This guy was, we do sea freight, air freight, 747. Yeah, lucky. It's common sense. How can a 747 land in Bintulu? Bintulu is just a small town. But that Idris Jala was mentioning to us. Okay. Let's hear about these solutions. True enough, the runway in Bintulu is off-spec. Yeah, it can cater for 747. There was a big hoo-ha. It was a highlights in the media. The 747 first touchdown in Bintulu, carrying the catalyst, and then just we can manage within the 1 week. Yeah, then we outbid our competition. That is reward location. That guy got double promotion. I don't know how much money that Jala gave at that time. So that is actually a story that I would like to share with you. Very important. He turned around SMDS within 9 months from a company that has a debt to a company that has become very profitable, and that's how we actually do business in Shell. Again, how am I going to do it in pipe? Not yet there, but we're getting there, inshallah. Yeah, a lot of obstacles. Kairos is our HR GM. We got to do a lot of things. Okay, keep abreast on the training and reskilling in workforce. Again, the similar question or similar topics with Puan Selina just now. When I first got interviewed into this job, people was asking me, how come air daripada air dengan minyak macam mana boleh sama kan? Totally different, totally different perspective. Datuk Nizam, for example, for minyak also. Tiba-tiba dia jadi sekarang ni jadi saudagar macam-macam lah. Saudagar durian. Saya tak nak cakap durian, nanti dia kata dia cakap saudagar durian. So then again, this is the importance of reskilling, I would say. Again, it goes back to C just now. Capacity. Your capacity to your headrooms, to deal with people, to deal how you achieve certain things. So reskilling is very important. I really believe in that. Even in right now, we have gotten the approval from the board to look into enhancing our term, our employee term. Then we promote people to do a lot of other things, IR, doctor, whatever. Yeah, and then we do a lot of trainings. That's some things that we want to do in PIPE. Healthy and steady. This is a controversial thing. Healthy and stagnant employee turnovers. I come from Shell, where I spent about 16 years in Shell. At that time, Shell was actually governed very differently than Shell right now. It was actually still very much a country-based, where the notion at that time, Shell will take care of you from the time when you enter, from the cradle until your retirement, from the cradle until grave. But over time, Shell has moved to evolve and become Shell it is right now, which is actually a really multinational, a really not just Shell itself, the business, but also the management. We believe in changing the stuff quickly, quite quickly. Not really in the sense that, I'm not saying about 1 or 2 years, because nothing can be done in 1 or 2 years, but at least good 4 or 5 years. It win-win in a sense, yeah? The company will get the best people, and then we as a workers, we get the best company. It's just a win-win. When I look into interviews, when I look into people's CVs, I will look into this. What quality you can bring me? What idea? Because I need new ideas. I cannot just see things in one eyes only, or one direction. I need to see many ideas, many input for me to see how we can actually do better, do differently. Then this is something I believe very frankly on this one. The last two, I have 7 points. This is number 6. Okay, about my time? Still okay? Diversity and inclusivity. Yeah, that's sum up a lot of things point that I mentioned just now. We could have a good people, we could have a good mix between, but if you are not diversified, your company will not be able to go to your potential. And you yourself, yeah, because your mix is very important. Again, I've seen not enough time, or not yet to do it in PIPE. I would love to see more mix within PIPE. Hugely now in PIPE we have about 90, maybe 98% Malays. Yeah, so those who can come to PIPE, we see the challenge there. Yeah, I would like to see this. And I would like to see the mix between the gender. Yeah, PIPE is well known for male-dominated industry, water, jurutera, all male. But now I have one Cairo. I'm going to have new CFO. Is going to be another Shell lady coming over. We're going to have one more general counsel, also a lady. So I need to see, because male and female will give you a different output, different ideas. So I would like to do that, inshallah. And even you have a diversity, but if you do not have inclusivity, it's not inclusive enough, your company will not do any goods. The last bit, Hairul, again, terlupa, is leadership. Yeah, I'm here only for a few years. It's a contract. At the courtesy of MB, my contract has been extended for another 3 years, so another 2 years to go. So I need to develop leaders, because leaders develop others. And the company is a going concern, so the company need to move on. So it's very important, go back to Puan Salina's point, talent pool. Within PIPE, I need to see who is going to be the next CEO, who is going to be the next CFO, who's going to be the next CEO after me. This is very important. I do down a legacy. Very important also for us to have a succession planning. Whether we like it or not, this is a big, because succession planning, whether blue eye boy and whatnot, this is very important. Okay, somebody was saying, okay, in Shell, we have what I call a CEP. Again, I've not done it in Pipe. We're going to do it. CEP, current estimated potential. Meaning, how I see a person, how far I see a person will be in the hierarchy within Pipe or within Shell. How far he can go. Whether the guy is enough to go all the way up to the CEOs, COO, CFOs, or only at senior manager level. This is something need to be discussed. I know it's hard, but it needs to be done. I don't believe in time-based, something Pipe need to address, because normally in the public sector, we go on a time-based. If it's based on time-based, I cannot be a CEO now. I'm not saying that I'm young, I'm still okay. Belum lagi sampai 5 series. Again, as I said, we need to actually address the capital human, very, very important. So I have about like 7 points, Arul. I'm going to deliver it to you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, thanks, Tuan Saiful. So let's see what Tuan Saiful has shared. I've picked up some of the key points and would like to just share them once again. I think I have to agree with what Tuan Saiful says. I do see the same as well. So among the three factors in these three symbiotic, work, workers, and workplace, the most critical factor, I'm not saying it is the only one, but the most critical factor, it's the workers. Because they are the one who is fluid, the dynamic aspect of an organization. So what makes an organization successful? It's the workers, or the people. What breaks an organization? Also the people, apart from culture. But people, culture, they are two inseparable things. And communication is the key, right? One of the points raised, communication is the key. And what I also try to pick, reading in between the lines, is the meaningful conversation that has got to take place. Not just about communicating without without proper intention, or communicating without, the real need, then it's not much of great help. So how meaningful is the communication that is done also determines how successful the organization will be. So, I mean, Idris Jala also happened to be one of my inspirational leaders. I've listened to a couple of his podcasts, attended one talk by him. A very soft-spoken guy. He plays guitar, and read some of the stories how he turned Mas from an organization that was losing money to an organization that started to make some money. Okay, and so speaking about quick wins, so one of the factors mentioned just now was about quick rewards. Not just about giving rewards, but how to quickly give the rewards. When we do our performance management, we tend to wait until 12 months is over. Then we decide, okay, orang ni berapa, or what should we reward this person? How should we reward this person? Sometimes when we wait for so long, the iron is no longer hot. So doing it as quickly as possible may help to change things faster, right? So quick reward, that's actually a very important point that we could actually take back and speak to our bosses if we can do that as well. And so Tuan Saiful also shared how he moved from an MNC to GLC, driven by a purpose, the purpose of wanting to serve. So, coming back to workers, do we know who our workers are? Who are our team members? Have we had a meaningful conversation with them? Have we spoken to them? What are their career aspirations? Most of the time we treat our workers, most of the time, I'm not saying all, in some cases, we treat them as objects. We treat them as tools. Tools that required by the company in order to achieve their business profitability. But if we start understanding who the workers are, try to have the meaningful conversation with them, try to understand their aspiration. Your future leader could be among them. You don't need to parachute somebody from outside. Could be among them, right? So, and of course, so Tuan Saiful has also volunteered to hire. He says that he wants to hire more people of different diversity. So your GM, which one is your GM? Okay, so she's sitting right in front there. In case if any one of y'all have any interest to join, you know, Syarikat Air Pahang, right? Please see the HR GM there. Yep, so she's just waved her hand. In case, because now this, when you attend this kind of events, you get to meet people, and instead of you applying through www.jobstreet, after they sit down and say prayer 10 times, you know, nothing happens. So now you can see, you know, the HR GM for Syarikat Air Pahang, and let her know if you are keen to join them. So I think that's all. You know, of course, many other points raised as well. From someone, dulu kala jual minyak, hari ini jual air. Okay, so that is very much from Tuan Saiful. And now let us move on to the last aspect of, last part of today's morning panel on reset. So I would like to pass over the mic to Datuk Sharul Nizam. So Datuk Sharul is the CEO of Tanah Makmur Berhad. Now he's also going to share his journey as well. And I think it's quite an interesting one. So do pay attention. And so remember, if you want to ask any questions, share it on Slido. You can ask in Slido. So this is the QR code. You know, you may want to start typing out a question, because right after Datuk Nizam is finished with his sharing, we will then go to some Q&A, right? So if you have any questions, please share it on Slido, and over to you, Datuk.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. First and foremost, I would like to thank HRD Corporation for giving me the opportunity to come and stand in front of all of you to share some of my thoughts about the topic that we are going to discuss today. Thank you also to Mr. Arul and my fellow panel members, Puan Salina and my good friend, Encik Saiful. So today I'm going to talk about three things. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about myself. Number two, I'm going to talk about the world. And number three, I'm going to talk about my company, or well, the company that I'm working for, which is Tanah Makmur Berhad. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the first slide. So my name is Sharul Nizam bin Abdul Aziz. I'm 44 years old. I've been in Pahang for the past 5 years. And as Arul and you can read from the book, I actually started my career in Pahang in Tanah Makmur Berhad. I came in as a COO, and Alhamdulillah, eventually the board of directors promoted me to become the CEO of the company. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that I'm going to share with you about my professional and also my educational journey. And this is not about boasting myself, but in relation to the topic that we talk about today, whereby it involves training. And for me, I have to speak about workplace. I feel that it is very important for me to share where I came from, what I did, and what has changed over the past 22 years of my career life in this world. I actually came, like Saiful, I came from a humble beginning. I was born in KL, but I started my primary education in a very small town in Kedah called Jitra. Okay? At that time, the population of Jitra was only less than 5,000. I went to school, I finished my UPSR, then eventually I went to Sekolah Dato' Abdul Razak in Seremban, a government-funded boarding school, and eventually I received a scholarship from one of the GLC in Malaysia to further my study, to did my A-levels in Morrison's Academy in Scotland, and eventually I ended up in the University of Bristol, and I read electrical and electronics engineering. So, if anybody were to say anything good about the government, it will be me, because I am a living proof of all the good things that the government and its policies and what Kementerian Pendidikan and Ministry of Higher Education and the PM's office has done. I am a living proof of that. I came from a very poor family, but I am what I am because of the government policy. So thank you so much to the government. I started my career at the age of 20 years old upon graduation with a Bachelor of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. I started working in Accenture, which is a global consulting firm, where I was actually being given an opportunity to be an analyst in the communications and high-tech department. I left that job after a year and a half because I decided that I really don't like talking to computers. That is really not my forte. From Accenture, I actually went to Shell Malaysia, like Saiful, and Saiful has mentioned earlier, anybody at the point of entrance into a multinational corporation, they will try to rate you, as what Saiful mentioned, CEP, current estimated potential. Alhamdulillah, I was lucky at that time where my current estimated potential at that time was what they call LC, lettered category. If I stayed in Shell Malaysia, I would probably retired as one of the CEO of one of the businesses. So that was my potential at that time as an LC. I stayed in Shell Malaysia for about 7 years. I moved around 8 different jobs. I think because of my estimated potential, then they tend to move me around every year. I've done a lot of jobs in Shell, but the main key takeaway from my experience in Shell is that that's where I had my first P&L experience. I learned the value of money. I transformed myself from an engineer into a businessman, and I learned the importance of building businesses and relationships. After a while, I decided to leave Samdabi, to leave Shell. Not because Shell wasn't a good employer, Shell was one of the best that I've ever experienced, but to challenge myself, to change from a business person to become a strategist and also a corporate financier. Alhamdulillah, at that time, I was given an opportunity to join Samdabi with 0 corporate finance experience, with 0 knowledge of accounting and finance. But at that time, my boss, Datuk Hisham Hamdan, who's currently the executive director of Khazanah National Berhad, he told me, he said, Nizam, I give you 1 year. 1 year to study and pass your CFA while working 14 hours a day. And I did just that, Alhamdulillah, within a year and a half, I actually passed my CFA level 1. I became a charter holder in 2008. And I also was given an opportunity by Samdabi at that time to attend a few courses by Harvard Business School and also Harvard Club in Malaysia. In Samdabi itself, again, I did 4 or 5 different jobs. So the main point is that it's not because to say that I'm good, but at any point in my career life, I always look for things that will challenge me, number 1. Number 2, things that will make my job sexy. And number 3, I always have this self-belief is that the best asset that I have and all of you have is actually ourselves. And what do you do when you have an asset? You invest in your asset. So I invested in myself in terms of trainings and also in terms of education. I invested myself in terms of improving my tenacity and also my discipline. So in Samdabi, I was given the first attempt or the first chance to become a CEO at 30 years old. I was the CEO designate of Samdabi Engineering. If anyone of you happened to read the business newspapers in 2008 and 2009, Samdabi Engineering actually was the reason why Samdabi Berhad had a major loss. That was because of the Qatar Petroleum and Maersk Oil Qatar projects that they undertake for the development of offshore platforms. So I was given an opportunity to try to turn around that company at 30 years old. I didn't do very well. I was too young and I was too harsh with my words, which later on became a very, very good lesson learned for me, right? And then from Samdabi, I actually moved to Petronas. I did not beat Rafizi Ramli's record. He made senior manager at 27 years old. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I beat Petronas's history to become the first CEO of Petronas subsidiary. It's called Vestigo Petroleum, or loosely known as Petronas Carigali. I became CEO of Vestigo Petroleum at the age of 33. Again, not because I'm good, but I went through several trainings, I improved myself, and I had a good help, not only from my superiors, but also from my team at that point in time. And then from Vestigo Petroleum, I actually went to UMW. I became a CEO of UMW Synergistic, a company that's focusing on power. And I learned a very important lesson there. I had the experience of working in a war-stricken country, where we had a project in Iraq. So during my tenure at that company for about 3 years, I actually had the opportunity to go to Iraq, experience wearing all the safety gears, experience the airport procedures and all the security measures in order to go and visit the project site. And Alhamdulillah, after 3 years in UMW, I finally landed, I was headhunted actually, to join Tanah Makmur Berhad as a COO. And Alhamdulillah, again, today, I'm the group CEO of Tanah Makmur Berhad, and over and above that, I've been given a great opportunity to serve Majlis Ugama Islam dan Adat Resam Melayu Pahang as one of the director, and I was also given an opportunity to become the chairman of Pahang Medical Center. So, all in all of this experience and learning opportunity did not come easy. Every job transition, I will always make sure that it will be an added value, not only to my added feather on my cap, but also will add something new to my resume. And it was never easy. And what I can share is that the most important thing is discipline. We just came out from COVID, you know, and when I was given, when I was asked to give a talk today, when I look at the title, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really understand what does it mean with, you know, the symbiotic relationship between workers and workplace. But what actually drove me to come and accepted the invitation to speak today is because of the word reset. The key takeaway for me personally from 2 years of draconian lockdown in Malaysia was I managed to reset myself. I changed my perspective, I changed the way I live, I changed the way I eat. I now started my day right. I woke up at around 6 o'clock every morning, I pray, then I go for a run. And I came back and I have a good breakfast, either myself or with my family or my kid. You know, so that becomes a ritual that I intend to carry on for the rest of my life. If you have a chance, pick up a book. I forgot the name of the title, but the name of the author, but the name of the book is called 5 AM Club. Read that. It will transform your life as much as it already transformed myself. Apart from that, I also was given an opportunity to attend the Advanced Management Program by Chicago Booth, NUS. I'm still trying to complete my MBA in Finance in University of Nottingham. I became a Mensa member in 2016 for the second time. The first time I became a Mensa member was in 1996. So I thought, you know, I recheck myself again, where I've been over the past 20 years. The numbers did not change. It stayed the same, Alhamdulillah. And finally, in year 2020, August, I was awarded with Darjah Indra Mahkota Pahang by Kebawah Duli Yang Maha Mulia Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah, Sultan of Pahang, which carries the title Datuk Ship. Thank you. So now, I'm going to talk about the world. And this is a reality check. I'm sorry it becomes a bit of theoretical, but I'm trying to make it as interesting as possible. So what has happened over the past 3 to 5 years? Number one, there's a climate change. Everybody knows about global warming. Everybody knows about the rising of sea levels. And if you go on and read the Star, you will notice that about 230 kilometers of shoreline in Pahang are currently being eroded. And the federal government, together with the great government, state government of Pahang, are actually thinking how to eradicate this problem, but you know, we need more money. And that's the challenge that the governments are facing right now. Number two, more and more people are being educated, more and more people are become aware of all the issues that's happening in the world right now. So if you talk about, we had a session with MACC this morning, everybody talked about transparency, everybody talks about integrity. So if there's any case involving these two factors, everybody would know about it by just accessing the mobile phone. Number three, you have also seen where social and community-driven entrepreneurship has actually emerged. You will see the rise of new businesses where people use product as a service. So you've seen companies like Gojek, like Grab, emerge and become a new way of doing businesses in this world. You have also seen and experienced yourself pandemic. I'm not going to dwell on it. Everybody, all my panel members have spoken widely about pandemic. There's also a security threat. If you read the newspaper, you notice that some banks in Malaysia, unfortunately, were attacked by hackers. And even in today's world, if you have a camera on your laptop, I've seen some people actually put a sticker to cover the camera, because you know it is real and it is possible for people to tap into your mobile phone and also your laptop and see what you're doing. There's also a rise of cryptocurrency, where it gives a problem to the world today, because cryptocurrency has no fundamental value. It is not tied to any metals or gold or any empirical assets. There's none. It is all based on, if I may say, hearsay or an arbitrary valuation. But the world is moving towards that. That's why so many countries, there are so many variations of cryptocurrency that's currently fighting for market share. And that imposes a great risk to us as an investor and also as a business person, right? When you read global headlines, everybody, even Arul and also Dato' Arif this morning, spoke about economic stability. Everybody is worried about inflation. But what people do not realize is that we are also at the threat of stagflation. If you don't understand what stagflation means, you can Google. But essentially what it means is that stagflation is an environment where you have high inflation, and then you have low employment, and you have low economic activities. So these three could potentially be a recipe for disaster. But I'm sure the central banks of Malaysia and the great people at Ministry of Finance are doing something to help the country, and we should all support that. There's also scarcity of resources. So when I talk about scarcity of resources, not only about oil and gas resources, but also about land. And land is scarce today. If you Google, you'll notice that there's only 7% of land that's only arable. And what does that mean? We also have the rising world population, where by 2050, we expect there will be about 9.3 billion people on this earth. How do we feed these 9.3 billion people if we don't have arable lands? So that is also another threat. You have also seen the creation of new jobs. Before this, we've never heard of YouTuber. You've never heard of social influencer or social media influencer, where these people make tons of money. And sometimes it's even obscene to think that these people do not complete school, do not have a degree, but they make more money than people who works in an investment bank. It's mind-boggling, but these are the new emerging trends that all of us need to adapt and change and retrain and reskill ourselves so that we remain relevant. You have also read or came to know about the Great Depression, where it happened in 1929 to 1939. And that happened well, not only in America, but it widespread across the world because of the fall in stock market. But there's new emerging trend today where people talk about the Great Reallocation. You probably have not heard of this because this was recently coined, the term coined by McKinsey & Company. I think it's as fresh as 3 days ago. I'll share a bit more on that. And all of this has actually led to, number one, responsible business ethics. Today we met MACC, they gave a talk about transparency, about being honest in the course of doing business. There's also an emergence of new license to operate. Before this, all of us have not heard of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. But today, slowly, ESG is becoming more and more apparent, where companies, if you do not have ESG practices or ESG policies, some banks may not even want to lend you money. Some companies do not even want to procure your product. So it is becoming more and more serious and more apparent in the way that we have to do our business. We have to adapt. Last but not least, because of all of these 7 items that I spoke about, business now are less value-driven. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying less value-driven, but more of social consideration. If you talk to youngsters today, the recently graduated person, what do they like to do? They like to do CSR work. They like to do social entrepreneurship. They like to do work that has meaning. Not like, you know what happened during my time, where upon graduation, we want to land ourselves in a job with a multinational company and earn as much money as possible. But today, the world and the mindset has changed. And what are we going to do in order to stay relevant? As a key takeaway of this slide, I'm going to say two things. It's either evolve or you dissolve. Not only for you as a person, but also for a company. Okay? You need to constantly reinvent yourself as much as I did over the past 22 years. This is the great reallocation. I depicted this slide and some of the wordings here from McKinsey and Company, where it says that you need to play offense in order to create value in a net zero transition. So what does that mean, right? These are all big words. Before this, you've never heard of net zero. But today, you've heard big oil companies or big energy companies like Petronas, Shell, Exxon, and all that. They are slowly moving towards net zero. Basically, whatever carbon emission that they produce today will have to be offset by activities or asset that has a reduction in carbon and also greenhouse gas emissions. At the end of the day, what they want is a net zero. So because of these changes, right, what McKinsey is saying over the next 8 years, i.e. by 2030, there will be a shift in terms of businesses. It will no longer be the same as what it is today. For example, I'm not going to go too much into detail. For example, number one, in terms of agricultural land use, there will be responsible agricultural land use. Number two, people will be looking at what is economic, which crop that can produce highest output per acre basis. For an energy company, people now talking about electrification of upstream and downstream. People talk about carbon capture. People talk about new source of energy, which is hydrogen. So all of these changes are happening today, right now, ladies and gentlemen. And who are we and how do we stay relevant if we do not reinvent ourselves and if we do not retrain ourselves and change our attitude? You probably have heard people talk about IR 4.0, but do you really know what it is? I didn't until probably about 2 weeks ago. IR 4.0 is nothing new. It actually started in 18th century, where they had the first IR 1.0, evolved to 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and I think we are at the verge of entering IR 5.0. So what are the differences? IR 1.0 talk about mechanization of water and steam and power, because at that time, all the manufacturing in this world was started to emerge. IR 2.0 actually saw mass production assembly, where people try to become more and more efficient in terms of producing things in this world. IR 3.3 that started in 1970 saw computer and automation. And IR 4.0 that started about 10, 12 years ago talks about interconnectivity, big data, global factory, and high-value manufacturing. So today, everybody talks about big data analytics. Everybody talks about collecting data from your mobile phone, from your behavior, what you spend on Shopee, what you browse on Facebook. And all of these data are being analyzed and it becomes predictive. So the it evolves into now what they call artificial intelligence, where the machine can predict what you're going to read next, what are you going to buy next. It's mind-boggling, because one day you were Googling about buying a new pair of shoes. The next thing, when you open your Instagram, you see 10 advertisements of shoes, or sport shoes, or running shoes, right? So this is all about cyber-physical system integration. It is about Internet of Things, and also it's about Internet of System. I do not know what will be under IR 5.0. It could be the rise of robots, because artificial intelligence is not really that far away. So again, the key takeaway, what do we need to do in order to transform ourselves and our businesses in order to be relevant? Even in healthcare, today, if you need to do a diagnostic, you walk into a hospital or any clinic, you have your x-ray taken, you have to wait until the radiologist or the doctor to come and interpret that. But that's no longer the case in some countries. For example, there's a big imaging company that's based out of India. What they do is they do interpretation of all images. So, as far as images that come from America, the images are being taken over there, is being sent over the internet to this company in India. So while the Americans are sleeping, the Indian doctors in India are interpreting the results and writing a report. So by the time the doctors wake up again, the reports are all ready and they are ready to act on it. So this is all coming, and it's coming faster than we can think. All of this become an evolving disruption. I know it's a big word, it's probably boring. But why do I say evolving? Because you do not know it will continue to change until when. Let's take, for example, the way business model is being dictated today are also changing. I mentioned about Grab. I mentioned about how businesses now are using product as a service. That's why if you look at, for example, Go-Car, they don't sell car, but they put a car there for anyone with a mobile phone and a credit card and a valid driving license to just rent a car and go. You have seen the emergence of platform-enabled marketplace. For example, Amazon, eBay, Shopee, Mudah.com.my, you can do all of these things online today. You have seen outcome economy, pay-per-use, product as a service. All of these are new things that did not exist 5 years ago, right? And you have seen that data monetization. That's why some companies, if they have an IT leak, what happens is that the data is being traded illegally on the internet. And that becomes a threat, as I mentioned earlier. So that's why cyber-physical integration is very, very important. I am not saying that all of us should drop our work and train ourselves in an IT environment or IT-related courses. But we need to be aware, because all of this will affect the way we live, the way we work, and the way we train ourselves and our kids in the future. I mentioned, as a key takeaway, our iceberg is melting. That's actually is a title of a book, which I'm going to share with you later. It basically talks about creating a burning platform to change. So because of all of these disruptions, we need to change. Okay? And if you do not know what I mean by the era of meta world, you can Google about it, where people now are talking about, online, people are talking about having 2 lives or 2 worlds. So that's why now there's an emergence of NFTs as a continuance of cryptocurrency. Okay? At the end of the day, all of this about staying relevant, to evolve, is a joint responsibility by all parties. Alhamdulillah, the Malaysian government has started thinking about this ever since the 11th Malaysia Plan. They have already thought about it. They've already come up with 6 strategic trusts to help the country to transform. Of course, some of the efforts were actually hampered because of the pandemic, but now it is time to move and move fast. One thing that I want to share today, we were slowed down because of COVID for 2 years. What I believe that we should do today is to have a COVID catch-up plan. Not only in terms of how we work, but also in terms of how we process applications, how we process data, how we function at work, how we speed up our work, how we improve our churn at work. We need to do that because there are 2 years of work backlog that we need to pick up. Okay? Everybody likes the idea of disruption. Everybody likes that. You know, because they think that disruption will eventually challenge them to do something new. But when that disruption happened to them, nobody likes it. It's a sad truth, but it is what it is. Next, I'm going to do a quick case study of our company, called Tanah Makmur Berhad. I call Tanah Makmur Berhad as a purveyor of oligopolistic businesses. What that means is that we are one of the renowned players in certain industries, namely 3 in Pahang. We are locally born conglomerate. We do IoT-enabled industrial scale durian farm, about 1,600 acres. Today already planted. We are a developer of 2,100 acres of Kota SAS, Kota Sultan Haji Ahmad Shah, Bandar Baru Kuantan in Pahang. And we currently own 4,100 acres of globally recognized pineapple brand called Rompine. If you do not know, Rompine and the product of Rompine is actually known worldwide. It's being exported to across 7 countries as we speak today. What are the challenges as a CEO of a conglomerate, i.e. a company with different businesses? There are 4 main things. Number 1, I have depth issue, where I manage not only the graduates, i.e. the general managers, but I also manage the plantation workers. So they have different expectations, they have different educational background, and of course they have different communication skills. I also have breadth issues, meaning that my employees and colleagues not only come from Pahang, but many of them actually came from overseas as well. I have people working in our company from the Philippines, from Indonesia obviously, from Bangladesh, from the UK. So as a leader, to get everybody on the same platform, on the same objective, to work together will take a different kind of strokes, different kind of skills, right? Number 3, in terms of skill, because our businesses are all at different location. Some businesses are still developing, some businesses are already stable, and some businesses actually at the midst of being turned around, right? Last but not least, is also a different complexity. So, all in all, when you talk about training in any company, as a HR person, you cannot have one program, because each business at a different business life cycle will require different kind of training. Okay? Let's take, for example, 4 business life cycle. There's a turnaround, there's a growth and expansion, there's stability, and there's also strategic business. In each and every one of these businesses, you require a different kind of leader. You cannot have the same general manager working in a turnaround business to head the next business which is currently in the growth and expansion mode. You can't, because the skill sets are different and the personality that is required in order to manage and expand that business at that point in time is different. So as a CEO of a conglomerate like myself, my work, as Saiful mentioned earlier, is to train my successor, and to train more and more GMs, so that they are becoming more and more skillful at managing different businesses, right? As a company, okay, this is probably a bit boring, but it's quite important. How do you run a company? You need 2 capital. You need financial capital, which you get from your shareholder. You also get debt capital from the banks. And you have heard so many times people talk about human capital. But why do they call human capital? And why did they call human resources? This is because in a company, you need the financial capital and you need the human capital, the people itself, to drive the objective of the business, which is shareholders' value maximization. So you need these 2. And as a CEO, as a company, my job is to train and find these leaders, number 1. Number 2, keeps on managing the business. And number 3, what I wrote in my slide there, is to make the right capital allocation, meaning to assign the right amount of money in the right business at the right point in time. Right? This is quite interesting. Managing talent in a company is like managing a football team. Okay? The CEO is like the team manager or head coach. The sales, trading, business development people, they are like the strikers. They are the one who go out and meet with all of the business partners, with all of your customers. The planters or the estate managers, in my case, because I'm a plantation company, right? They're like the midfielder. They protect the baseload cash flow of the company. The defender or the goalkeeper, these are the people like in the finance, in internal audit, the legal, the audit, secretarial, they are like the defenders of the company. Last but not least, and among the most important one is the human resource. They are like the scout. They go and find the best human capital that's the most suitable for the business at any point in time. So you see, this is the analogy of how you manage a human capital as though how you manage a football team. And of course, different parts of the organization will have different issues, but generally speaking, quite a number of people lack of financial skills, they lack of strategic skills, they lack of compliance skills, and as what I have mentioned earlier, they lack of these ESG skills that now becoming more and more important. So the job of a HR person is becoming more and more critical, because you need to know and you need to be aware of the changes in the world in order to make sure that your organization stay competent and stay relevant. And your workforce can adapt and accept the challenges of the world in order to thrive. These are some of the critical skills for a general manager. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but there are six key items. One of the things that I want for you to take away for today from this session is that, look, everyone must know and must not be afraid of numbers. Number two, everyone should know how to write and to speak very well. And number three, learn the power of storytelling, because it becomes a very powerful tool in developing your career throughout your life cycle. Okay? In Tanah Makmur, what do is that we have this matrix. If let's say we compare the potential of a person, whether low potential or high potential person, and whether currently he's a low performer or a high performer, we then try to come up with a training program specific for that person at whatever level that they are within the organization. But one thing that I and my HRGM, Mr. Adlan here, do not accept is we do not accept passengers. Okay, we are quite strict on that. Maybe I can skip this. I want to show you two books that I write. I'm coming to an end of my presentation. Don't get too bored yet. First is this book about the iceberg is melting. This is a story of penguins, right? They realize because of global warming, the iceberg is melting, the rising sea level. It's a story of denial, fear, resistance to change. Penguin politics, not only human politics, but among penguins they also have their own politics. Overcoming obstacles, heroism, and also ultimate success, right? Therefore, the main key takeaway from this book, among others, could be one is the acknowledgement and sense of urgency of the issues, right? We need to address any issues in a company or even with ourselves head on. We need to guide the team. We need to have a vision. We need to be a great communicator, as what Saiful mentioned this morning. We need to celebrate short-term wins, keep people motivated, keep people happy. We need to keep the momentum and discipline so that it can transform and become a culture. And culture is not built overnight. Culture will take time to develop, and culture can be developed through SOP. So these are the key takeaways from this, and this is all about change management. This is my favorite book. Probably you've heard of this. This book is by Malcolm Gladwell. It's about, the title is Outliers. Okay. I'm just going to focus on the last key takeaway of this book. There is an intelligence threshold, right? If you want to know how intelligent you are, you probably can take a Mensa test or IQ test. Probably the highest is, if I'm not mistaken, is 180. But there is no measure to incompetency. right? You cannot measure how incompetent a person is. And there is a magic number. What does a magic number? Okay, in this book, Malcolm Gladwell actually spoke about, number one, you don't need to be a genius. You just need to be slightly good at something, because that slightly good can become a booster for you to be given other opportunities. For example, if let's say, in my case, I was born and raised in a small town. Probably I was lucky enough that my parents actually taught me every day, spent a lot of time with me every day to teach me, mathematics and all the other subjects. I became slightly good compared to other people, and because of that, I got scholarship. I ended up in a boarding school where, probably because of my discipline, I did slightly better compared to the rest. But the point is, you do not need to be a genius. You just need to be slightly better than someone else, and you need to put in the hours. So in this book, Malcolm Gladwell actually said that if you do something consistent enough for 10,000 hours, you'll end up becoming very, very, very good at it. In the case of Bill Gates, he was born in a rich family, but it so happened that in the area that he was living in, there was a library, and at that time in that library, there was a computer. So even by the age of 16 years old, he already spent more than 10,000 hours doing programming. That's why he became so good at it that he eventually managed to come up with the new software that govern most of the computers today. So you don't need to be a genius. You just need to be slightly good, and you need to have the persistency and discipline and tenacity to continue to practice. Okay? And at some IQ mark, if you're too smart, what this book says is that it has a diminishing returns. I do not want to elaborate on that because I might offend some people, but go ahead and pick up the book and read. But it's very, very interesting. Okay? So, finally, this is a quote from Ram Charan. He's another leadership guru from this book called Leaders at All Levels. He said, no one is actually 100% prepared for any job. How do you know that you'll be a good CEO? You never know until you take that job and somebody then see whether you can perform or not. Therefore, for the person who actually appointed you as a CEO or as a GM of HR or GM of finance, it's actually taking risk. So like me, when I appointed a certain GMs in my organization, I'm actually taking a risk to see whether this person can perform or not. Okay? Finally, every HR person will tell you people are an asset. But if we talk about the real asset like bangunan or tanah or whatever, it's all depreciated over time. Or the value can actually be measured. But now I have a question to all of you, something for you to ponder upon, something for you to think about, is that how do you actually put a value on a person if we consider that person is an asset? Is it A, the value of the training money that we spend? Is it the value of losing the high performers when they leave? Is it the value of, what is the value of hanging on to the poor performers, that they slow down or they hamper the performance of the company? Okay? So last but not least, I hope that we all can have a shift in our mindset. I believe training is not the sole responsibility of your superior or the company. It actually starts from you. It is your own responsibility. Number two, as a company, we need to build the right organization structure so that we become a medium and a platform to encourage our people to grow and wanting to grow. Last but not least, you need to embrace high performance culture in order to help your people to continue learning. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I hope that I did not bore you too much. I'm very excited to share whatever that I just presented today. Thank you. Sekian. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
So thank you Datuk Syarul. Ini macam ceramah perdana. Ini macam ceramah perdana. Okay, anyway, I think that was a wonderful sharing. Covered a broad spectrum. It's so difficult for me to now pick some key points. But nevertheless, what I would say is business as usual, business as always, is now changing rapidly. Yeah? And so you have heard of all these things. Now, just one last point I want to pick on. Sometimes companies are afraid to train their workers because they are so afraid that if I train my staff and if my staff becomes good, he or she will then leave to another organization. But there's also value in it. So, you know, if you look at, if you hear what Tuan Saiful was saying just now and what Dr. Sharul was saying just now, they spoke highly of Shell, right? Shell invested in them. They grew in Shell. They gained a lot of experience, a lot of skills and networks and contacts. They never spoke bad about Shell, right? So Shell trained them up. Today they're speaking good things about Shell. Got some of you all motivated. How can I also join Shell? Right? So sometimes when you train your staff, they leave you, they will speak good things about you. They will not speak the not so good things, right? So never be afraid of training your team members, your employees, and always, you know, once you have done the training, if they still go, I always consider this as an act of God. I've done my job, I've ticked all the boxes, but my employee leaves, there's nothing much I can do. But I'm sure when they're out there, they will remember you, and they will come back to you one day if things don't work out, and they will speak good about your organization. Okay, so now, thanks a lot for the sharings, Puan Salina, Tuan Saiful, as well as Dato' Sharul. Now, I've prepared some questions for them, but I think I would prefer to hear questions from the crowd. We don't have much time left. So what I will do is, I will skip my questions for now. I'll go to the questions that you guys are asking. And let me just, you know, I will not pick all the questions. We will pick as many as possible. So let me start off with the first question from Lucas. So companies are preaching about IR 4.0, but the cost and retraining process hinders them from full implementation and becoming more rhetoric. What's your view? So Dato', that's a question for you. Since you spoke about IR 4.0, it's costly. In some of the minds of the organization, it's very costly to implement, the cost of training, etc. And it becomes more abstract, or shall I say more academic. They're not pursuing it. What's your comment?
Thank you, Lucas, for the question. I think, as I mentioned, you know, cyber physical integration, big data analytics are all becoming part and parcel of doing business. You cannot ignore. You cannot not do it. You have to do it. If you don't do it, then you'll be left behind. So the way I see it is that this is a cost of doing business. You need to invest in the IT system, in the software, and also in the network connectivity in order to provide the infrastructure for your business to thrive. But you also need to invest in your people to be trained and to use this technology. So to me, in my organization, we will continue to do our investment so that we stay relevant. Thank you.
So I think that's important. Change is happening. Change cannot be stopped. So either we change or be prepared to change. So we see some of the leading brands those days. Where are they today? I mean, I'm sorry to say Nokia, they're still around, but they've gone into a different, or shall I say they're focusing on one aspect of telecommunications. But where are their mobile phones today? Where is BlackBerry? Where is Sagem? And some of these leading brands. So change will happen, like what Puan Salina said. Change will happen. Are we prepared for it? So with that, it brings me to a second question. Puan Salina, that's to you. With the advanced robotics and automated labor, would human resources or human labor become expensive, or will they become cheaper?
Okay, thank you for the question from Zulkifli. Okay, in my point of view, it won't change the price of the labor, you see, because when we talk about 50% estimation of 50%, the jobs will be done by robotic or automated, and 50% will be still done by human. That's why we talk about upskilling and reskilling. So everybody, the job holder, employees are expected to have the job expansion so that everybody will, will expand their career, will earn more, and it for me it definitely won't relate to the automation or robotic things, because it is two different subjects. Automation is automation, and still for the workers are still the workers, and workers will be paid according to what their skills are.
Okay, so I think another point maybe I just want to touch on is this. Now, sometimes we are afraid when we automate we have excessive or excess workers. What some organizations do is they repurpose the workers. That's why you have got training. So in training, you upskill them, you reskill them, and you repurpose them. That means today, for example, if I've got an employee who's doing this particular work, and this is now automated or digitalized, I do not need him anymore. Now he's a good worker. So what you should consider doing, instead of trying to figure out how do I retrench him, now if he's a good worker, I'm sure you want to keep, that's where you repurpose him. In order to repurpose somebody, you got to upskill them first. Or reskill them on some areas, upskill them, then you repurpose them, right? So I think the issue of, expensive labor or cheap labor, I think that may be something that we should not worry about too much, right? Okay, there's a question from Kamal. So Kamal wants, he would like to ask, how do you handle workers who are no longer contributing to the company? Should we, to be honest, it is not easy to fire them. You ask me, like I'm an IR person, it's easy to hire, easy to fire. But let's hear what Tuan Saiful has got to say.
Okay, can I answer this question? I think the first thing is before we ever think about firing or retrenching people, we need to see this situation case to case. In this case, we had to actually exhaust all our means, making sure that something like this, the hole and the coin, it doesn't fit. Is it because the whole problems not big enough, or the coin is a problem? Yeah, again, so yeah, that is need to be addressed first. Yeah, maybe that particular person may not be suitable for that particular jobs. Yeah, we had to change and rotate somewhere better. I have the experience, I will not tell name. And this guy has been reported to me that he liked to mengular, orang Pahang cakap mengular. Because the work that he is doing is actually not to his interest and not to his liking, and it doesn't defeat a purpose for pushing something that they cannot do. So what I did was, I call him up and try to understand where he's coming from, and I can see he is actually better to do other things. And I moved this guy to do this particular one that fit for his experience and his knowledge, and he became one of my best workers or my employee. Again, before we decide to go on the firing or retrenching or whatnot, let's do that first. Okay. If we have exhausted all the means, then it reaches to a stage that we cannot do anything. The first thing, the CEOs and the board need to be brief. Yeah, we need to look at punca kuasa. What is the authority that you have? If you really want to turn around the company, and because we want to scale down or making sure that we reorg, the board need to give a mandate to the CEOs to change your constitutions or the terms of the employment. Yeah, that's important. If not, you get sued. Yeah, so let's do that. And then, as I said, then only we can actually do it in proper manner. Cik Arul?
Yep, okay, thank you. So, Puan Salina, would you like to add on to that?
Okay, this is, I think many companies face this, you see. The issues is when we talk about performance, always, I can see, based on my experience, always I encountered performance monitoring is not done well. Meaning, always company, only those professionals, they take care of the performance, see. And once you are confirmed, that's it. You are on your own. But if the performance monitoring is done continuously, that means whether you are probationers or you are a confirmed staff, the performance will be great. Meaning that if, let's say you have in this case just now, if the person is not performing, the first thing that the superior should do is to put him under PIP, Performance Improvement Plan. So there must be a guidance, for instance, 3 months to complete a very structured, meaning what are the points that this person has not performed. then what are the training or guidance to be given to this person rather than the superior just say, oh, I don't want this worker, you see. Sometimes, and most of the time, it's not that the worker is not a good worker. Most of the time, happen is skill mismatched. You know, it happens sometimes the person is good in another department, for example, in finance, but he or she is placed in human resource. So not everybody from finance can be absorbed to human resource. You need skills to do that. So that is my opinion. If performance management is done well, you have a structured program, you'll be okay. I mean, the issues of terminating people on performance could be avoided. Yeah.
So, so I think we also must take note that people don't become bad overnight. We hired them, we interviewed them, we shortlisted them, we hired them. And how do they become a poor performer down the road? People become poor performer because in most cases, they are a victim of poor culture. Now that points to leadership. Victims of poor processes, victims of poor systems. So, and people become bad. People get demotivated when there's a frequent change of leadership, frequent change of bosses, frequent change of KPI. There's no follow through. Performance assessment is not done accordingly. We don't ask employees, what is your aspiration? How do we put them into the right job, like what Tuan Saiful has mentioned just now? How do we ensure that we manage them at the right time? PIP, sometimes the thought process we have PIP is to terminate. Now PIP should not be used for terminating someone, but it should be rather used to help someone to improve their performance, right? So I think that's all we have in terms of question from the panelists today. And we have also exceeded our time. So what I would like to do is I would like to thank our panelists today. So we have got, of course, Puan Salina, we have got Tuan Sharul, I always confused, Tuan Saiful, as well as Datuk Sharul, who have shared with us, insights into the topic of work, workers and workplace, as well as sharing of their experiences from where they've started, where they are today. And I believe you all have got quite a bit of insights, inputs, ideas, and some takeaways that we really hope you can go back to your company, speak to your bosses, and try to consider implementing some of this. Now remember, change is inevitable. Change will come. Are you ready for it? With that, thanks a lot to everyone. Thanks a lot to HRD Corp for organizing this event. And over to you, Madam MC.
Thank you very much. We would like to thank our brilliant moderator and panelists for that very insightful discussion. And we are so lucky and blessed to have such great speakers with us. And I think you must remember this. HRD Corp will always give you the best of the best. Please give them a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen.